My guest, Dolores Huerta, co-founded the United Farm Workers. And Dolores, welcome to Evening Edition.
Hello.
Now, you fought along with the late Cesar Chavez for workers' rights. How did you get involved in farm workers' rights movement?
Well, I was a teacher and going door to door, registering voters, came to a home of farm workers and saw the poverty that the people were living in and felt that we needed to do something about that. So eventually I quit teaching and became an organizer.
What are some of the issues that you think farm workers still face?
Oh, well, they still have the same issues, I think, in terms of trying to organize. Although in California we do have a very good law that allows farm workers to organize, there's still a lot of resistance on behalf of the employer community. And the sad thing is that even though in California we got unemployment insurance for farm workers, disability insurance, workers' compensation, most of the states of the United States of America do not have those same laws. In New York State now, Carrie Kennedy, Robert Kennedy's daughter, is fighting for legislation that we got here almost 40 years ago. So throughout the United States of America, farm workers don't even have those basic rights. The one thing that we did get for farm workers nationally was toilets and cold drinking water, you know. And I guess that's a big issue that we did win for farm workers. But most of the workers in the country are still, you know, very discriminated and very badly treated.
50 years ago, this is the anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, of course, 50 years. What was it like back then to be a woman, a teacher, a mom of 11, and then a leader in the farm workers movement?
And I think one other thing that we can add to that is to be a Latina, to be a person of color, because one thing about the Civil Rights Movement that it did, it started opening the doors so that, you know, when I went to college, there were like maybe 5 or 6 of us on the whole campus. And now we know that we can go to campuses and there's, you know, 50% maybe Latinos and definitely women. I mean, as women, we know that in many campuses, the majority of the students are women. And we looked at the professions like doctors and attorneys, et cetera, that we were able to break those barriers. So I think the Civil Rights Movement accomplished a lot, but at the same time, we know that we see the pushback now that we have a kind of institutionalized racism when we look at the numbers of people of color that are in our prison system, for instance. You know, when we look at our educational system, even today, we still have a lot of discrimination. My organization, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, we're fighting against the large numbers of expulsions and suspensions of Latino and African American students.
Let me ask you a little bit more about that. Let's talk a little bit about immigration reform right now. What do you think it's going to take for Congress to really deal with this issue?
Well, we know that if the leadership would call for a vote today, it would pass. You know, they've got the H.R. 15, which is a bill that the Democrats proposed. It's in committee. We know a bill passed the Senate. So, but the leadership, Boehner, McCarthy, will not put it to a vote. I think what we're going to need the corporate world to step in, because they are the ones that really finance these Republican candidates, and we've got to go to them and say, you know what, you've got to stop giving money to these Republican candidates unless they support immigration reform. And if not, maybe the Latino community should stop using some of your goods.
And do you think that's a better strategy than perhaps what you used to address farm workers' rights back in the day, 50 years ago, let's say protests? Is it better to maybe go after corporations now? Well,
actually, the way that the farm workers got the Agricultural Labor Relations Act was through a boycott. We boycotted grapes. We had millions, like 17 million Americans stopped eating grapes in the United States of America, and that's how we got the rights for farm workers to be able to organize and to have the protections of a union.
If you had to say your top message to the young Latino elected officials at NALEO at the conference today, what would that be?
Well, it's going to be, I'm going to say to them, reach out to your corporate partners and say to them, you know what, you support us on immigration reform, or we're going to get the word out to the Latino community that maybe you're not our friends.
And if you could, just end by this, tell us a little bit about your foundation.
Well, we are actually organizing, going out to communities, especially with immigrant communities and working people, and asking them to come together so that they can solve their own issues, and that's how we developed the leadership. We have about 12 of our people that have gotten themselves elected to school boards, city councils, water boards, and taking care of the infrastructure issues in the community, and now we're addressing the whole issue of education.
And it sounds like you're busy. I want to thank you, civil rights activist Dolores Huerta. Thanks so much.
No, you're welcome.